Hi, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of Round Robin. I'm your host, Tracy Preston, along with Christine Mulligan, Nina Mulligan, Regina Lindsay, and Angela Hafler. Hey, everyone.
Hey. Yo, yo, yo.
Hello.
What's up?
So I was just telling the girls I'm absolutely frozen to the bone. I had a track meet, my daughter's first track meet, never did that before. I had no idea. It's like currently our time is like almost 9:30. I've been at the field since 4. I need a hot shower. Like steaming hot to where my face is melting off. That's what I need. Oh, it was brutal.
I can't believe it's still so frozen there.
Oh my God, it's just horrible.
It's cold.
Yeah, it is. The wind is just absolutely freezing cold. Even driving home, my car said it was 50 degrees, but with winds at 36 miles an hour, it felt like 36 degrees. So it was like literally out in the wintertime for four and a half hours. It was crazy.
Why did Michigan never get the spring memo?
It was very late delivery this year. So
something.
Yeah. So, I just want to throw out there because we didn't talk about it last week. Last week was an unusual week, but it was still fun. It was Christina, Nina, and I. But, we've lost Todd. So Todd's working nights now. So sadly, he's not going to be on the round robin. And Angela Hafler was finally having her honeymoon in tropical Keys, in the Florida Keys.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was wonderful.
It was wonderful. So we've got the whole crew here, minus Todd. So it's kind of weird. We miss you. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the commercial for the translation earbuds?
Yeah. Yeah. I keep thinking I want to get them. And then I'm like, it's just going to be too much work. By the time I want to translate whatever somebody's talking about, it's going to be 10 minutes later and they're not going to be talking about it. So that's how I keep talking myself out of it.
Well, it seems like it is in immediate real time. So I don't know about what commercials you guys have seen, but the one I saw, it was a, Hispanic male. His girlfriend is white. And of course, she goes and hangs out with his family and they're all speaking Spanish. She doesn't know what the hell they're saying. So he's like, here, try this. Boom, slaps it in her ear. And he starts speaking Spanish. And her eyes are like, it's like instant translation. So.
Yeah, as long as you have it hooked up to your Bluetooth and all of that. Like, I'm just saying, I just feel like there's a lot more to getting it set up than just the moment of when it's translating. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how to explain that any better.
No, I totally get you because they always make it seem so fantastic and easy. It's probably like a whole big setup, but if it's not, I'm going to tell you what I would do with it. When I go to get my pedicure, are you ready for this? So
I knew you were going to say that.
When you go to get a pedicure, pedicure, manicure, because I know those women are talking about me or other women, and it's like, you know what I mean? Do you guys ever get that feeling? It's like they are cracking some jokes on us up in here because none of us can understand them. And I don't mean to sound racist or anything, but it's true. It's true.
It's very true.
The paranoia is true.
Yeah, I just say.
I mean, the paranoia is real. There have been moments it has appeared that way. And then on the other hand, I think I'm not that interesting. So maybe they're just having the same kind of conversations that we have at the bedside of a Spanish-speaking patient about what we're having for lunch. Who knows?
Could be. Could be.
But she still wants to know.
Yeah.
Well, I get it. I mean, I would like to know. I'd like to be in on the joke. I mean, if they're, making fun of the guy that she went on a date with last night, I want to hear that. I mean,
right.
It could be interesting.
Or how ratchet your toes are. Like, can you believe this? Look what I'm dealing with.
Okay, but this is what I want to know. So if you go to another country, what do you do? Do you, share the earbud with someone you're trying to communicate with? Or do they also have to have this thing? You would be able to translate what they were saying to you, but how would you translate what you're saying to them?
Yeah, see that is exactly what I was thinking as well, Nina, because it's like, okay, going back to the example of the commercial, she can immediately understand what the family's saying, but she doesn't speak Spanish. So it's like a one-way thing, I think. You just understand what they're saying to you. So I don't know. It would take a little more research. Good point.
I've used phone apps for that at work, with patients before. And there is a slight delay. Works to put the phone on speaker, basically. We both talk to the phone and it interprets for us.
Right. So you kind of speak into it and then it'll translate it to whoever you need to. I've never used that app, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, there are a couple of them. The one that we used mostly actually is obsolete now. It's no longer supported, but it worked relatively well, and it did a lot of different languages. We would use the translation line, but occasionally you'd get someone that spoke a dialect that they didn't readily have an interpreter for.
Gotcha.
And the app did, and it worked out pretty well.
That's another reason why I'm holding off on getting the translation earbuds, because I'm just as intrigued as you are. Totally get it. And I'm like, oh my God, I want those. But then I'm like, the technology is not totally there yet. Once we get to a place where the app that's connected to the earbuds, right? Because it's got to be an app, right? Otherwise, why would you have this processing system in your earbud? That's way too much. That's way too much happening too close to your brain. Anyway, so when the apps are able to readily detect dialect and language automatically, where you don't have to pick it and say, I want to translate English to Spanish or Spanish to English, you know what I mean? Then that's when it's going to be totally worth it. But right now I feel like it's a great idea and I love it. And yes, please, other people buy it so we can get to a place where it's instantaneous.
Well, I think that's almost Star Trek level, because they got to a point where they had a device in their ear and it didn't matter, or it was on the wrist or something. I don't know, but it translated in time. So it's when you were talking to the person, it sounded like you were talking that other person's language and vice versa.
Oh, for sure. Like when they're on the star deck. And yeah, you're right.
So, we're just a couple of steps away. We're already trying to chuck people into space. So, instant translation's the next step, and we're like Star Trek level.
Yeah, unfortunately, they keep coming
back.
back.
I never think I was going to reach that. I'm excited.
Yeah. So, since you brought it up, Nina, and I know you guys have all been watching it. Now, I haven't read too much into it. So what was the deal with the blue suits and the chicks getting chucked into space? Oh, no, I think we must.
No.
I think that's
for the love of all that's holy.
Asking. That's the question. The whole world is asking is why.
Unfortunately, they came right back. So there's that. Somehow wearing tight spandex like you're the cast of Buck Rogers and being shot into space for 11 whole minutes makes you an astronaut and somehow advances women in science. Please, half those women can't spell science.
Regina.
Yeah, this is my problem. There's so many problems. There's so many questions, too.
I don't think it can ever happen. It didn't even freaking happen.
Okay, so listen, first of all, why? Why did this happen now? Why a bunch of ladies, an all-female crew? Why now? Why now? What are they trying to not let us find out is my first and foremost question. Is what else is going on in this crazy world that they're trying to give us a puff piece with an all-woman crew that, by the way, they all did other things, none of them science. So let's not talk about the disgrace and the disrespect that we put on the women that are in science and STEM and work on things like this. They were overlooked for this all-woman cast. But we get a few kind of celebrity-ish people or, billionaire girlfriends, and we throw them on a ship and we're like, yay, astronauts, yay, women. Look at how strong women are, so capable.
capable
Capable
for,
of what?
for taking the trajectory path of the very first space launch ever in the history of launching somebody into space. So not super impressive because we've actually surpassed that level. Okay? Supposedly. But here's the thing, and this is just part of being an astronaut. You can't have implants. You cannot go up into space with
We didn't
implants.
even get close to the physics of it all yet.
You know? So how are these lovely ladies going up into space and coming back with perfect boobies?
Okay, wait a minute. So are you talking dental implants? What kind of implants are you referring to?
I'm talking about boob implants.
Breast implants.
All right, so if you have breast implants, what, do they implode?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. That's why women astronauts cannot have implants. So tell me how these celebrities, most of them filled with silicone and implants, went up into space and didn't come down looking melted.
And nobody's lips or boobs exploded.
Okay,
Okay, that's the physics of it. We're not even close to that part of the conversation yet. First and foremost, as a feminist, I'm appalled at this whole debauchery because of all the women that are in STEM. They were completely overlooked. Well, the thing is that I'm probably getting on a soapbox for them that's unnecessary. They probably didn't want nothing to do with this whole mess because I feel like the whole thing is a sham.
and you have to be a size 3 in order to get into that Buck Rogers suit. Those girls were all tiny.
Or not.
Who wasn't?
Gail King is not tiny.
Oh, see, I just saw
That's Oprah's bestie.
she went up.
Remember her? She used to be on the show sometimes.
Yeah. She's
She's not heavy by all means. but
She's not heavy,
sexy.
but she's right. She's not
a size 3.
cachectic.
Well, I got news for you. Even the skinny chicks that were on that crew weren't, size zeros because they had, 660 implants in. size zero would only fit.
Well, maybe the purpose was
660 implants.
maybe the purpose of the mission was to determine the performance of silicone versus saline
Maybe. Okay. But
in a
that's not what they said.
zero G environment.
I leaned in for that one. And physically speaking, on physics, actual physics, I don't understand how you could put a water balloon at under 1 G-force. Never mind all the G-forces it takes to project yourself out into the atmosphere. I don't understand how those balloons came down with no catastrophe.
And they didn't even have helmets on, did they?
Literally.
I don't even think they had helmets on. How the fuck you go to space with no helmet on?
Well, seriously, helmet is the least of your issues.
No, you're supposed to have the suits with the backpack and the marshmallow arms.
But the thing about all that is none of that is going to save you with all those G-forces and all that heat. Okay? You're gone. You can wear a titanium suit and you're gone. You're gone.
I'm gonna say,
Fuck the safety, okay? Safety's out the window when
Okay.
you're...
if the life support fails, you're kind of hosed regardless, whether you've got a helmet on or not. Yeah, the whole thing is just
Bananas.
Oh, wait. We didn't even
bullshit.
talk
Was the word I was
we didn't
looking
even
for.
talk about the more science. Let's talk more science, folks. No burn marks on the outside of this thing. It re-entered the atmosphere. Okay, if you've ever seen any pod come back from it, there's scorch marks everywhere. Not even dust on this, right? Then the door opens into the fuselage, which, by the way, is fuselage.
She's using very big scientific words. I love it.
Yeah, so it isn't supposed to open from the inside because, that's dangerous and gravity will collapse you. Okay? Thirdly, windows. Okay? Windows all around the whole entire thing. Basically, the whole thing was windows. All right? Can't have windows like that, just like they don't have windows like that on a plane. Why? Oh, I don't know. Because they'll break and fall off and you'll die. So there's like so many things that are just epically, ridiculously, scientifically improbable. Like you can't do it. So,
And who's the scientist that told you all this, baby?
oh, The internet scientist.
Okay.
She did her research and she examined, I'm thinking very, very meticulously studied these things. So since we're talking about all this, I was just having a thought because I did see this little thing where it said this gentleman was talking about the advance of science where we are now versus when did we go to the moon? Was that in 1960 what? 1960?
Are you asking when did they tell us that happened or when did it happen? Because that's two different answers.
Well, it seems like it didn't happen.
It didn't happen. It is actually a hoax. It's all a hoax. We've never been to the moon. Nobody's ever been to the moon except for the moon people, but they're supposed to be there.
I'm mad as hell. Like, legit, that was a lie. So why could this not be a whole smoke and mirrors routine? And that's why their silicone implants didn't rupture and their lips didn't explode and all that kind of shit, is because it didn't happen. It was all a farce. No?
Huh.
Think about that. They tricked everybody all these years to make us think that we had people on the moon when we did not.
Maybe that's why this needed to happen. Thank you, Tracy. You have given me at least one probable answer to my biggest and first and foremost question is why the hell did they do this? And why is so we can all figure out that it was a freaking hoax and everybody that was still thinking that we landed Armstrong on the moon to do the giant leap for mankind, that everybody says, oh my God, they tricked us.
Right. And here's the other thing. Does that coincide with Area 56?
51.
Area 51.
Area 51, right? Was that around the same time? I think it was. Distract everybody and have them look over here because we have this over here. What do you think about that?
Well, no, the whole race to the moon was about the Cold War, and getting to the moon before Russia was the most important because we wanted to show our aggression, and we wanted to make believe that we were more scientific than them. Supposedly.
But, I mean, if the United States of America didn't have the technology, how did Russia have the technology? Because clearly they haven't been there either, or China. Or has China been there?
Well, I'm just going to throw a probable theory out there.
Let's have it.
Maybe it's because we did discover crashed aliens, and then we realized they had the power, so we were going to make believe we had the power. And probably Americans are not the only ones that have had remnants of alien visitors, because, I don't know, call me kooky. There's no possible way in this grand old universe we're the only kind of species. You know what I mean? We're the only kind of humanoids. I think there's got to be humanoids for every planet out there that we supposedly know about.
Well, why would they have to be humanoids? Couldn't they be lizard people that have translation?
Yeah, sure.
They have translation devices.
I already know that I come from the Anunnaki, okay?
Right. But you know what? It's interesting. And I'm looking at this because I will tell you, I felt for it. I believed that we had men on the moon. I believed it. Did you? Did you ever believe it? You had to have.
As a kid, I did. I didn't really start thinking about it until I understood really like the science of film and stuff like that. So once the internet became available, I mean, you just go down rabbit holes. And I did, cross that one time, and it was like, well, wait a second. They didn't even have the technology that I'm having right here at my desk. And it barely works sometimes here on this planet. But you're telling me in 1950 whatever, we were able to transmit this free and clear and, get cameras up there? And, come to find out the cameras that were being used in that time era would have collapsed and not even worked up there because they were that fragile compared to that atmosphere. So it would have been physically impossible for us to get any kind of pictures of these people walking on the moon, just from that fact. That there was no technology capable of capturing picture film in space at that time. So how that happened then?
Exactly. And all I can think of is these astronauts are no better than Milli Vanilli.
You guys, I'm struggling with this because I'm going to be honest with you. Being a Houstonian, and my great uncle was an engineer for NASA during that time.
Oh, Intel.
So and designed the moon rover. So
he designed it for the set.
Right. Absolutely. I'm having a hard time going down that rabbit hole with y'all right now.
Can I just say something about the moon rover?
Yes, please.
I do think, I don't know, and I know this is an unpopular belief, especially now with this whole women crew hoax, and I'm so annoyed for so many reasons, but whatever, I'll get over that. I do think that the moon rover made it to the moon. I just don't think Armstrong ever did. And I definitively know that we did not satellite image transmit that film, because that, at the time, they told the American public that was being live broadcast as it happened.
True.
That is a
right.
full-faced effing lie. Yeah.
Right, because everybody was watching it, right? Everybody tune in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what do you guys think about the rover on Mars? Is it there?
I think that got there. I don't understand why we wouldn't be. I mean, we shoot people out into the space, the satellite stations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that's fake. You know? I don't know why. I don't think that's fake, but I definitely think the moon landing and this latest.
Well, no, because that's not anywhere near the moon. That's much closer to us. It's right outside the atmosphere. It's really not that far away. Yes, it's in space, but it's not moon space. You know what I'm saying? So yes, there could be astronauts, and also we send rockets up with rovers and things like that can make it close to those.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So they drop it off with a parachute. It can absolutely be taking samples and stuff.
That is essentially how a rocket lands.
Yeah.
Anywhere, you know, on the space station. It just kind of thrusts over there and then drops, you know?
Yeah, what do you think, Regina?
In a zero gravity environment, how is it going to drop? It has to be acted on by an outside force. There has to be inertia. It's not actually dropping. It's
right.
You know,
with thrusters.
You have to create a pressure gradient in order to attach it to the space station, right?
But then how do we, if that's a fact, how do you explain the rover the way when it took all those pictures and everything? Like, I remember.
And there is gravity on these planets. That's not. Obviously, there's gravity on the planets, or it wouldn't stay down there. There'd have to be some.
Well, a planet wouldn't be a planet without gravity.
Some thrust holding it down, right? But you can't just parachute it. You have to launch it into the atmosphere. You can't just drop it from space. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You'd launch it on a big rocket.
Yeah. Right.
Because we can't go to those planets as people. So, but they got there somehow. So I think they're there. Otherwise, that's really weird. Like, why go to the length of that? I'm not sure. Because really, they want the minerals. That's all that's for. They just want to mine other planets so that they can make themselves more rich. That's it.
Yeah, but we can't never go back and get the rover. The rover's still supposedly on Mars.
Well, maybe that's what they're trying to build while they're blowing up all these other $1 million rockets.
Okay, see, well, I'm such a chucklehead. I think I'm mixing it up. It's the Mars rover, right? There's not a rover on the moon.
Correct. I don't think there's a rover on the moon.
No, there was a vehicle that was launched with the Apollo mission.
The Apollo mission that made it or did not make it?
Mm-hmm. That made it.
The Apollo mission was AKA Armstrong's journey.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was one of the Apollo missions. There were several.
True.
So did any of them land on the moon? Are we just saying that the initial one with Lance Armstrong... Wait. Isn't he the biker?
There we go. According to BBC, Apollo mission hoax theories have been debunked.
Are you going to give us more?
What did they say?
It says there have been lots of conspiracies and fake news about the moon. One of the earliest fake news stories happened in, 1835, The Great Moon Hoax was a series of articles. So was the moon landing fake? Despite plenty of evidence and scientific proof that this isn't the case, many people still to this day think that the 1969 moon landing was fake and that mankind has never taken one small step, let alone one giant leap on the lunar surface. Much of this is down to a handful of conspiracy theories that continue to be shared online with popular moon conspiracy videos on TikTok, racking up millions of views and getting thousands of likes. And if you look closely at the image, particularly along the top edge of the flag, you will see a pole that has been extended to help the flag hang correctly. So I guess that's one of the theories, is that why is the flag standing up? When the astronauts were trying to perfectly place the flag in the ground, the movement led to the rippling effect that you might see in images. As there is little atmosphere, the flag stayed in the same position once they left. It says that some people argue about the lack of stars, that it was staged. If the image was really taken on the moon, shouldn't we be able to see the sky full of stars? And it says the sky may look black, but remember that the image was taken in the daytime, and both astronauts and the lunar landscape itself are bright, lit by the sun. It just goes on to list like multiple of the conspiracy theories, but insists that they've been debunked. And that's not just that one. It's the Royal Museum of Greenwich, Institute of Physics, Wikipedia, Reuters, Time Magazine, BBC, History.com. And the NIH.
But what about the fact that Armstrong has been recorded saying that it was a hoax and that he never went to the moon?
Oh, really?
Can't speak to that.
Yeah, there's several times where he stood in front of audiences and said, "No, we never went to the moon. It was all a hoax in a studio."
So
yeah, I mean, we're not going to get to the bottom of it. I think it's interesting. I definitively know that they did not transmit live footage. Like
that makes sense.
To this day, we
do too much of
FaceTime. Yeah. To this day, our technology is at a place where FaceTiming is a thing. It totally works, but only if you're in service areas. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to tell me that for all that time, they had perfect reception on those satellite transmitters. Like, that's just crazy to me. And why did it take us another 35 years to figure out that technology if we had it all the way back then?
Right. Think if we had it then, where we would be now. Maybe instead of a rover on Mars, people could be on Mars. Were these, I'm trying to remember, I don't know if you guys, saw this little bit that I was talking about with this guy talking about we still don't have the science that we have today to put men on the moon. Do you guys know anything about that?
Yeah, that's what they say.
So if we couldn't do it now, how could it be done then? It's interesting. And it's interesting. And going back to the rover on Mars, I get little notifications. I think it's on TikTok, and it's NASA saying, NASA has another amazing video from 40 million miles away. And it shows the rover, and it's, taking just panning, left to right, and I'll look up at the sky, and the amount of stars and the colors that are, from all the explosions and the constant, bursting. I'm not getting all the right scientific words out there, but it's mind blowing. And I'm constantly watching it. The video is so crystal clear. Like, to me, when I look at it, it kind of almost looks like it's, that looks like it could have been water. Or, have you guys ever seen any of those videos from NASA, from the rover?
Yeah, I have. That's why I want to believe in those. But I also don't understand the transmission capabilities. Like, if we're remote controlling this rover, how are we transmitting that remote control signal? Like, that blows my mind. I don't understand it. And I have never read anything that even remotely starts to explain it to me.
Well, it's very interesting because I didn't think about, I just didn't click those things together, because you think in this day and age, everything that we know, with as far as technology has come, but you're absolutely right. How is that being transmitted from 40 million? 40 million or 400 million miles away?
Yeah, because then I think about like the things that we do underwater, right? When we send like a picture taking, and sometimes they even have like robotic arms that will take things in. But when we send them down, we're not remote controlling them. We send them down connected to cabling. So we always have a cable to this vessel in one way, shape, or form. So I get how we remote control that, but there's no cables going into space all the way to Mars. So how are we controlling that? It just blows my mind.
Yeah.
And like, I've never really read anything that even starts to explain it to me, which means that it must be so out of this world, technology-wise, that my dumbass brain can't even compute. Like, it just doesn't understand. Nope.
Could it be? And you know what? You're right, because just like we talked about last week with Romeo and Juliet, those remote controlled subs that, and starting in 2021, 24 hours a day for, I don't know, I think it was 3 months or something like that. They were taking those digital images of the Titanic. But like you said, there's a cable, so they're plugged in.
Yeah, they're cabled, or they're like right over them at so many depths. But they always have to stay close. Do you know what I mean? The ships that are monitoring them, they can't be in New York City.
No,
the monitoring people are not in New York City. They're on a barge of some humongous report, and they're over the site.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if they go too far, they lose the capability, and they'll lose their machinery.
Right. So that crew had to be there for all those months.
Right.
24 hours a day.
Where's the cable and the crew for Mars? Where are they? Where are they, Therese? Where are they?
Could it be technology that they learned from the alien spacecraft? Could it be?
Your guess is as good as mine. Angela, you're really quiet. Are you not jumping into this crazy lunacy?
Oh, sorry. I had it on mute.
It's like in our meetings, you're on mute.
Right? But you can't wave at her because we don't have video.
Right.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on all
I'm
this?
just listening. It's interesting.
Your brain is...
I don't really know.
Your brain is frozen because you left tropical South Florida, and now you're back in the tundra.
And now I'm freezing.
You're in survival mode. You're like, I don't give a shit.
And just FYI, again, just looking at information while we were talking, Buzz Aldrin did not say that the moon landing was faked. And Neil Armstrong actually wrote a letter to a teacher who had claimed that it was, and basically told him off. So
you can't believe everything you see and hear.
Right.
And seriously, if it hadn't been for the fact that, again, my great uncle was a NASA engineer, and my great aunt was one of the first women employed by the Johnson Space Center in Houston. And he worked on every space flight until Atlantis, I want to say, until, when he retired. He actually ended up, when he retired, he lost his vision and all that. But I spent a lot of time talking to him. He was really, really interesting, and probably the smartest person I've ever spoken to in my life.
Well, I could imagine those conversations with him would have been super cool.
He was also an incredible artist. I actually have somewhere at my house, if I can find it, a clear, like acrylic plaque from the maiden voyage of Columbia that has a piece of the thermal tile that they removed after it returned to Earth. And it's encased in there with a little card that has his name on it, thanking him for his service.
Oh, that's awesome. So we conspiracy theory there. I don't know. I'm on the fence. I mean, I believe that I'm hoping that these things were not all bogus lies, because that's pretty jacked up. So, but
well, other countries tracked those missions as well. It wasn't just our government reporting on it.
Gotcha. So we're going to shift.
All right. So, Regina, how do you feel about the women's space crew getting shot up,
It's bullshit.
going into orbit, and coming out? Okay. So we're on the same page about that conspiracy.
No, I mean, I think the whole thing is bullshit. I mean, even if some of those original flights, when they were getting ready to try to launch people to the moon, and when they were sending, monkeys up in space capsules, they were actually high up in the stratosphere, but they weren't actually in outer space. I don't know. Maybe that's something that happened. I have no idea. I just think it's bullshit that you get a whole bunch of celebrity women together and they can buy a ticket to get on, air quote, space mission. Yeah, it was a carnival ride.
So let me ask you
That
guys.
was not a space mission.
No, what? Well, kind of. If we think about it, they did go, if it did happen, they broke through the atmosphere and they were in space, right? They got through and then they came right back down. That's space, no?
I guess. I mean, I wasn't on the flight crew or anything like that, but I'm just saying, no, I just think that the whole concept, the premise behind it is bullshit.
Gotcha.
I keep thinking about the people that died on that private submarine, which was actually, just plastic tube that the door was glued on and tried to go down to the Titanic.
Was it the Titanic when those, because wasn't it the guy who owned the company or whatever it was? He was down there with his family, right? Why do I want to say that was Australia? It was not?
No,
I don't remember.
They were going down to the Titanic wreckage. That's what the whole plan was.
Okay.
And it was the owner of the company and then some other millionaire, billionaire and his son. And anyway, that whole thing, it just kind of reeks of all of that elitist, privileged BS is the thing. It doesn't serve any scientific purpose. It was wasteful.
Other than just to do it. So do you guys remember, and I can't think of the name, but I know with all the intelligent ladies on this call, you guys are going to come up with this guy's name. But do you guys remember the super, he must have been a billionaire as well. Wasn't he the owner of Virgin Records or something like that? He had a spaceship. Do you guys remember that?
Richard Branson.
Thank you. See, I knew one of you guys were going to know what that was. So did he not do the same thing with super wealthy people who wanted to take a quick space ride? He did the same thing.
Well, isn't Blue Origins, isn't this his space line?
I don't know.
It is Bezos, because Bezos' girlfriend. Well, Bezos' girlfriend went up, but I thought Blue Horizons or Blue Origins was, what's Richard Branson's space program called then? I thought it was Blue Origins.
Richard Branson's space program is Virgin Galactic, a privately funded space tourism company that has been developing and launching suborbital spacecraft for passenger flights. Virgin Galactic space plane, VSS Unity, began commercial flights in 2023, offering tourists a brief experience at the edge of space.
They're suborbital. That's what I was talking about. They're very high up in the stratosphere, but they haven't broken the atmosphere.
Gotcha. So that's probably what the blue chicks did, right? Is that what they did? And to be honest, I haven't.
No.
It sounds like maybe Nina. It sounds like you've been reading up on that. Do you have any more information about that?
About their trajectory. About it was the direct path of the first astronaut flight to have ever been made. So it was a recreation of the first space flight.
Well, now I'm going to play ignorant on that because I'm not certain how far they went. Did that first space flight also not break through the atmosphere? Do you know?
We have no clue. We have no
That's
clue.
what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
interesting.
Because if it was the first, but then they might have thought, oh, yeah, that space or whatever. Well, that's as far as they got. And space to them, so that's what they call it. It's space. But now that we know a little bit, maybe they renamed it. I don't know.
Gotcha.
It says that the launch in Van Horn, Texas, of course it was, during the roughly 10-minute flight, the 6 crew members flew just above the Kármán line, an invisible boundary at an altitude of 62 miles that is widely accepted as the edge of space. They did not break the atmosphere.
Aha. So then that would explain why the silicone boobies stayed intact. Because I'm sure Katy Perry's like, I paid lots of money for this. They have to be intact when I get back.
No, I don't understand that. Just taking off, blasting off in a rocket, the G-force that happens to reach the edge of space.
Well, now I'm curious, how many G's is that? Compared to and I'm just probing, because
I don't know, but me, myself, and I can barely take the G-forces in one of those spinny things at carnivals.
So, and that's another thing. None of them bitches came back with puke. on them. How they do that? They didn't train at all. They did zero training. They basically woke up on a Monday and were like, cool, let's go to space. Yeah, my boyfriend will take us. Okay. And
We
then
have
they all went
3
shopping.
Gs.
And on Friday, they showed up and they're like, let's do this, bitches. Space is love. I mean,
Yeah, 3 Gs.
how are you going to call yourself an astronaut? Get the out of here. That's crazy.
Yeah, but also they did all come down and then kiss the ground. So that would lead you to believe that they were scared for their lives.
Or is that what every fucking astronaut does? Because that's what they do when they come back from space, real space.
Yeah.
Because they do send people into space now.
Or was that just scripting? Good scripting.
Is that
So the answer is they face 3 Gs,
Well, you can do
So-
that on a roller coaster.
primarily during the ascent. And that's the thing, too, is that, I also, again, Houston, NASA, have a couple of friends who are physicians who were astronaut candidates and went through all of that. And the health screening is intense.
Right.
And it's very, very stringent. The guidelines for NASA are very stringent. People who were turned down as astronaut candidates due to the potential for heart conditions, they don't actually present symptoms of, things like that. So it wasn't actually a space flight.
I think we can all agree that
It was a
is
near
true.
space flight.
Right. And to be honest, I mean, we've all been in airplanes, and I know like how like my heart races when I'm like, okay, this is rough as shit right now. You know what I mean?
I laugh.
You do?
Yes, I giggle on the takeoff and the landing. Oh my God, I love it. Turbulence, I love it.
Oh,
I'm weird.
you.
I love it.
You're a
Adam
risk
just
taker.
looked at me. Adam just looked at me when we were taking off, and he was just like amazed that I was laughing.
I know, and some people are like, "Can I get some scotch, please? Scotchy, scotchy, scotch, scotch."
Not me.
I don't mind turbulence, but takeoff and landing, and this is just the whole analytical brain. The most dangerous time on an airplane is the 5 minutes after takeoff and the last 10 before you land. Statistically, if something's going to go wrong.
Apparently, I like that.
You are a risk. She likes to live on the edge, Angela.
Sex and near-death experiences, it's fine.
Well, I think ultimately, at the end of the day, this entire sham of a ride to space is them just setting up what I think Bezos wants to add to his portfolio, which is glorified carnival rides at the edge of space for the low, low price of $200,000, and you too can be an astronaut.
Did they have to pay?
Well, no, sure. I'm sure they didn't really have to pay, but they put it out there. This is how much it would cost if you want to come do it.
$200,000 seems kind of cheap.
I thought it was $250,000.
Either way.
That's not cheap.
Well, no, I'm
Really?
not saying it is cheap, but it seems like it would be. Well, I mean, shit, if you've got 6 people, 7, how many of those women were there? I'm just saying. Like, how?
That's
No,
each.
it's a piece.
That's
That's a
each.
piece.
$250,000 each.
Yeah.
Right. Gotcha.
That's a small house.
Yeah.
That's a small house.
Like you and Todd, $400,000, or you're not going to space.
500.
$500,000. Well, I was still going off the 200,000 because I thought it said 200, but whatever.
So who's driving who's manning the ship? These girls didn't do anything but sit in that spacecraft, whatever rocket they were in. Who was driving
Yeah,
the ship?
Captain Kirk.
There's a control
Captain
room.
Kirk.
No, there's a control room down under.
No, but you still have to push controls. You still have to push buttons. You still have to know shit.
There's
No,
a flight crew. There had to be
there had to have been.
somebody actually flying the damn thing.
Right. They were just passengers, for crying out loud. All right, I'm going to shift because I'm going to shift real quick because this I found was very interesting. Do you guys like ladybugs?
Yes.
Yes.
Right? Like they're sweet little, cute little bugs with the red and the spots and all that kind of stuff. So this is kind of actually targeted toward our listeners in Australia. So thank you, because I know you guys are listening. I see you. So anyway, right now in Australia, there are swarms of ladybugs, unlike anything anybody's ever seen. Like they are covering buildings, anything they can land on, including people. So this picture I saw of this guy, like it showed him from the back, it looked like he had a scarf on. They were ladybugs all over his neck, all over his back. That's all fine and good, but and I'll pick up a ladybug, let it crawl all over me. That's cool. Have a conversation with it, let it go. But I mean, to be covered in them or just to have them, like, it's nuts how many there are. And I'm like, well, what in the hell is all this about? Well, apparently in southern Australia, they are having a horrible drought. And, they have like all these pine trees and all the pine needles, everything's drying and it's falling. And there's aphids all over these pine needles. And that's what the ladybugs are doing. They're eating the aphids.
Yep, that's their primary food.
Yeah. So they're like, it's not like, because when I saw this, I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? Like, is this the end of the world? And it's going to happen with ladybugs? But no, they're actually doing a favor. They're eating all the aphids and cleaning everything up. But I don't know. I couldn't stand it. That would be a lot. Like if it's kind of like, to me, when I looked at it, it reminded me of like a beekeeper. You know how they wear the suit and then they have all the bees all over them? That's kind of what it looked like, except for ladybugs right now. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I looked it up.
Cool.
That is interesting, and it does look like a beekeeper that just has swarms of bees all over him.
Yeah.
And then they were showing an image of just a silk of the ground. They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, they're cute, but too many is just too many, period.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah, one's fine. But like to feel all those little creepy crawlies all over me?
And nope.
Nope. Nope. All right, I said that was going to be the last thing, but I have one more thing. Have you guys heard anything about being able to utilize certain chemicals or whatnot? I'll read it in a second here. It says humans may be able to grow new teeth in just 5 years. Have you guys heard anything about that? It's happening in Japan.
I did start to hear something about that, and I was going to look that up because I'm totally intrigued. They apparently grew teeth in a lab. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, this particular article this one was in Popular Mechanics, but I'm seeing it kind of in a few different places right now. So it says that, Japanese researchers are moving a promising tooth regrowing medicine in human trials. And it says if the trial is successful, the researchers hope the drug will become available for all forms of toothlessness sometime in 2030. So the article goes on to say that the average adult human body has 206 bones, right? And, if you break them and this and that, they have the ability to regrow, fill in, that kind of a thing. But with teeth, of course, not being bones, they can't do that. So it says they want to be able to do something to help those who are suffering from tooth loss or absence. So this guy, Katsu Takahashi, the head of dentistry at a medical research institute in Kitano Hospital in Osaka, quote, there has been no treatment to date providing a permanent cure. We feel that people's expectations for tooth regrowth are too high. So, they're, of course, testing it out on animals and all that kind of stuff. And they want to focus on children. This development follows years of study around a particularly antibody named uterine sensitization associated G1. So they call it USAG1, which has been shown to inhibit the growth of teeth in ferrets and mice. And back in 2021, scientists from the Kyoto University, who will also be involved in future human trials, discovered a monoclonal antibody, a technique usually used in fighting cancer that disrupted the interaction between the USAG1 and molecules known as bone monogenic protein, or BMP. It says because humans are undergoing a similar trial lasting 11 months, the study focuses on 30 males between the ages of 30 and 64, each missing at least one tooth, and the drug will be administered intravenously to prove its effectiveness and safety. And luckily, so far, no side effects have been reported. And then it also goes on to say that the Kitano Hospital will administer the treatment to patients between the ages of 2 to 7 who are missing at least 4 teeth, with the end goal of having a tooth regrowing medicine available by the year of 2030. I find that interesting. I'm not
I find
so
it disturbing that they're testing it on children.
right that they want to do it on children. Who's gonna ante up their kids?
Yeah, no.
Because what potential other issues does that cause them going forward? I mean, if you're going to test it and do human trials on an adult who can make that informed decision for themselves, fine. They understand the risks, the potential risks associated with it. But yeah.
On children? Yeah, I don't like it.
You're not coming anywhere near my kid with that.
No, agreed. Agreed. I just found it very interesting. And do it on people, like you said, the older people. Heck, I just had to have a tooth extracted. It rocked my world. I was so upset about it. Would I do it at 54? Probably not. How about doing it on some of the older folks if they want to, who don't have any teeth? Or, their teeth were just so bad they all had to be yanked out. If I was an elderly, I'd probably do it.
Yeah, but how well will it work for elderly when all the rest of their cells are given up regenerating? You think that new introduced cells are going to start regenerating? The likelihood that the studies will get very far in elderly is probably slim to none.
Yeah. So move toward the innocence.
Right now, but I mean, at least adults.
Right.
Yeah, adults. I
mean,
don't
children's
think...
teeth are going to grow back. A 6-year-old that's missing 4 teeth, they're growing back. So how do you test the efficacy? How do you know that it's the medication versus just the normal biological process?
Good point.
I just figured they meant like my brother. He, as a kid, was swimming in the pool and cracked his teeth in half. Coming out of it, he has goggles on and he miscalculated. So, he's had to deal with getting his front teeth redone all the time because the bonding work only lasts for so long. And it was, split literally in half. So if he could have regrown his tooth, that might have worked better at that age than it would be as you get older. I don't think they're doing it on little kids who are going to be getting their teeth after they've lost them naturally. I think they're talking about kids or maybe even teenagers who have...
She said 2 to 7.
Oh, she said 2 to 7?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't hear that. I thought she just said kids.
Yeah. But, I mean, I see where you're going, Nina, because how many... Well, heck, someone I knew was playing baseball when they were in college, just all having fun and got popped in the mouth with the softball and broke her teeth. Her 2 front beautiful, beautiful teeth she had, broke them off just below the gum line. Maybe that would be something that could be an option. Get the injection.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes total sense.
And it's interesting.
I think it would be cool for adults or older people, but I don't know, the whole kid thing I'm not comfortable with.
Yeah, I agree. Long term, God only knows. Stay away from the littles. So
at least until they know what side effects or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
At least until you've had time to follow adult subjects long enough to determine what the long-term effects are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least 10 years, right? That would be a good study.
At
least 10 years. Yeah. So God bless the people who want to give it a go, but that's how science evolves, right? People are like, yeah, let's do it. Why not? I live on the edge. Not me, though. I'll just get an implant. I'll spend $3,000 for an implant.
We're back to implants. We've come full circle. Look at that.
Round Robin. All right, guys. Well, I think that was a pretty fun show. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. And if you are enjoying Round Robin, please give us a like and a share and a subscribe to us on YouTube. We could really use it. Oh, and before we go, just letting you guys know, the interview for the show happened last week, and I just received the write-up, and I went through and re-edited it. So we're looking at maybe a couple more weeks before it's in the local paper in Eaton County Journal. So I'm going to make sure everybody gets a copy of that.
That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. It's a great write-up. You guys are going to love it. So I'm going to make sure you guys all get a copy. So,
see, I always figured if my name was in the paper, it'd be because I murdered someone.
Yeah, no, you didn't have to murder anybody. So that's a good thing.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. And we will see you guys back on Friday for F-Bomb. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.
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 Later.
Later, Gata.